Hey everyone, we're going to wait just one more minute and then we'll get started. Thanks. All right. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. My name is Austin Farmer. I'm the marketing director here at the Retail Coach. And we're going to be talking today about the top retail recruitment questions of 2017. So we're going to go through and just look at some of the top questions that we have gotten from clients and just different communities that we've worked in and been a part of throughout 2017. And just kind of look at the evolving retail landscape. So we're going to be joined today by a couple of our team members. Charles Parker, our Director of Retail Strategy, is going to be leading the charge here today. Hey, Charles.
Hey, good morning, Austin. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Ready to talk about what went on a little bit in 2017, maybe look forward a little bit to 18, and talk about some retail trends and what we're seeing from our perspective on the retail market.
Awesome. And our other Director of Retail Strategy, Will Klein, is going to probably join us later in the presentation. He had to jump to a meeting, but we'll be joined by him probably later. He might make it time for Q&A. And then we've also got Aaron Farmer, our Senior Vice President, on the line as well.
Thanks, Austin. Great to be here.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, though, I want to make a quick note for all of our attendees. If you are watching this presentation online, there's a questions box in the bottom right-hand corner of the GoToWebinar panel. So you should see a drop-down menu that says questions. And so we want this to be as conversational as possible. So as we go throughout the presentation, feel free to type questions in there. I'll be looking at that box, and if we can get to those questions as we go through the presentation, we certainly will. So feel free to use that and use that often if you'd like to. So Charles, we'll jump into the first question that we've seen in 2017, and this is really the biggest question we've seen throughout the whole year. And that question is brick and mortar retail dead?
Yeah, and this is really the question we get most often, and obviously as online shopping becomes bigger and eats up more and more market share, this has become, the question that's looming on everyone's mind. But I think to get to the core of, even start to answer this question, we really need to start with, what's causing this big push. And the biggest disruptor of them all right now is Amazon. And I think if you look back and ask the question, brick and mortar retail dead, what did Amazon do in 2017? That they spent $14 billion expanding their physical footprint with purchasing of Whole Foods. On top of that, they're planning to continue to open more bookstores. And then even most recently, their newest trick has been this Amazon treasure truck that they drive around and set up almost like flash sales and get people driving to their app and get physical location and more touch points. So, it's certainly changing, but even the biggest disruptor is increasing their physical footprint. It's not going away by any means.
So, Charles, one of the things we hear often is that everything's going online, but it looks like with Warby Parker and Amazon and some of these well-known internet brands, they're actually starting to come offline as well. So that's an interesting point.
Yeah, exactly. Warby Parker was another one of these companies that started strictly online, and now we see them dropping physical stores. These are, the retailers that are the forefront, and we're seeing them kind of do the opposite of everyone else, and they see the value of having a physical footprint. And so I think that's certainly indicative that, there is a place for brick and mortar retail moving forward in this world of online shopping that's looming ahead of us.
Definitely. Aaron,
Austin,
I was about to say, Aaron,
here real quick.
Aaron, you gave a presentation recently at a national event titled Brick and Mortar Retail Isn't Dead, It's Just Evolving. What kind of evolution are we seeing from brick and mortar?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying I don't think brick and mortar retail is definitely not dead, and really a key indicator to that is look at Amazon. You know, Amazon is really leading the e-commerce trend right now, but they're getting into brick and mortar. You probably recently heard that they purchased Whole Foods just within the last few weeks, and they've also opened up and are starting to open up some Amazon bookstores. So I think right there, that's a key indicator that retail brick and mortar retail is not dead. So I wanted to throw that in there. But you know, as far as some of the trends that we're seeing, I mean, Charles hit on a few of them, but one of those is you're seeing these retailers shrink the size of their stores. So a good example is your office supply stores, maybe even like your Home Depots, your Lowe's, and even Costco. We're seeing them shrink the size of their stores. So maybe they were 60,000 square feet, maybe now they're 30,000 square feet. So I think that's going to be a trend we see. You're also seeing a lot of these retailers doing store pickup or online. The grocery store where I live, we did this yesterday. HEB is a grocery store based here in Texas. They have something called curbside pickup. We ordered everything we wanted to buy online, and then we went and picked it up curbside. You're seeing that at Walmart and some other retailers as well. So brick and mortar retail is definitely not dead. It's just like you said, it's evolving. And you know, these national retailers, these regional retailers, and really even local retailers are having to evolve themselves to kind of keep up with it. So it's definitely not dead, but like you said, it's just evolving.
Great. Charles, can you talk a little bit more about that online offline merge and how shoppers are maybe starting the purchase process online but still prefer to go to a brick and mortar store?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen this as one of the major trends, and the omni-channel that retailers are catching shoppers on their mobile device, maybe starting a sale there. Kind of how Aaron touched on. Maybe they're ordering on their cell phone or ordering online and going to pick it up in store, or they're price checking. But we see here really only about 20% of sales actually occur on the online channel when that customer enters a brick and mortar store. It's not likely for someone to go into a store, if they can get the same item at the same price, why not just pick it up immediately rather than go home and order it from Amazon, order it elsewhere. So we're seeing this move to an omni channel where retailers need to have a presence on social media, online. But they still need to have that brick and mortar footprint component to it to really maximize their sales.
I think it's interesting.
Charles, that's a great point, and I think too. I mean, even local retailers. So even I was in a community in Colorado last week, and talking to downtown merchants, and this omni-channel marketing, this omni-channel retail doesn't need to just be focused on these large national retailers. Local businesses, regional businesses can really take some tips from what these national retailers are doing, and they need to have a presence online, brick and mortar as well.
Aaron, I think that's a great point. We spend a lot of time working with downtowns and working with communities on revitalizing downtowns. We look at brick and mortar and say brick and mortar's definitely not dead, but are downtowns dead, or is there still a need for downtowns and communities? What does retail in downtowns look like?
I definitely think there still is a need for retail in downtown. I think again, it's evolving as well. In order for a downtown to be successful, you've really got to have a number of different components. You've got to have that daytime population, but you've also got to have that nighttime population. So I think it's important to have some people living down there, so you have some population density. I think it's important to have retail down there, restaurants for nightlife. It's all going to come together, but several retailers that I've talked to said they still go to downtowns as they look at them as kind of the pulse of the community. So it's very important not to forget about your downtown, but to come up with some new strategies for downtown.
Great. So to kind of wrap up this first question of is brick and mortar retail dead, the key takeaway from our end of what we see is physical presence is still important. It's just changing. And Aaron, you touched on some of those trends for 2018, smaller store formats. Charles, you talked about kind of an omni-channel presence where people can find stuff online and pick it up in their local store. Are there any other trends moving into 2018 people need for retail?
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
main
I
thing
mean,
moving forward is, like I said, here is the returns. Even online shoppers, they prefer to return in a store. The hassle of packaging up a box and shipping it back online is not palatable to them yet.
Great. Aaron, were you going to add something?
we'll talk more about it later on, but I think you're also seeing like online ordering at restaurants. You can order online. I did that at a sub shop a couple of days ago. Went ahead and ordered my order for my family. It was there when I picked it up, so it was ordered online, but still picked it up in brick and mortar. So, I think again, you hit on the major trends there. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years, but at some point, I expect online retail, to level out. Brick and mortar is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So the false premise that it's going away, it's exactly that. It's false. It's gonna continue to be with us for a long time.
Got it. That leads into our second question that people usually follow up with, and that's what about e-commerce? Isn't e-commerce going to take over the world? Isn't that going to just completely destroy retail in the next few years? Charles, what should people know about e-commerce?
Well, yeah, it's certainly becoming a larger factor, and more sales are going to occur online, and that's just a trend that's going to continue on. But I mean, even look at the past year, only 10% of retail purchases occurred online. That number is certainly going to grow, but it's not by any means going to take away brick and mortar permanently or indefinitely. And we look at some of the holiday trends that people are expecting this year, and almost all shoppers will at least look online to make a purchase. So it's looming, it's coming, but it's not the end all be all by any means. Kind of another push towards e-commerce that we see. Black Friday this year, that most reports are expecting to plateau, if not kind of decrease from years past. Part of that reason is e-commerce. Retailers are already having Black Friday sales. Amazon has their Prime Day in the middle of the summer. So the convenience of it is having effect on some of these, crowd-packed Black Friday type events. And then, kind of the last piece to everything is social media, which has been continuing to drive e-commerce. Americans check their social media accounts on average 18 times per day. Millennials, the 18 to 34-year-olds, check it, 31 times a day. The impulse buys that we're seeing are now coming through social media. So it's continued to make that push.
What does that mean for communities in terms of if we're a community and we count on retail sales tax and tax dollars that come from a vibrant retail environment, we want to have a good quality of life and have stores people shop from. What does that mean for communities? What should we be looking at as e-commerce continues to rise? Like, how does that affect our strategy?
Yeah, so I think for especially downtowns and communities themselves, they have to find a way to combat, that e-commerce, that Amazon effect. And I think the way that to most successfully do that is through an experience. Millennials are kind of driving this change in guard to everything is experience based. Whether they can take a picture and share with all their friends and kind of have this FOMO, the fear of missing out phenomenon, that, hey, look what I'm doing, I'm experiencing this cool event. And I think the more that communities can capitalize on things like that, they can, have that downtown revitalization, have that cool brew pub downtown, or have that cool coffee shop. One of the main things we see now in terms of social media is, all these pictures in front of murals. Downtown Austin is a great example of all these big painted murals that people are taking pictures in front of. That's driving foot traffic. And if they're walking down to take pictures in front of these murals, or they're taking a picture in front of the Big Bean in Chicago, they're there to make that experience. You can convert those into retail sales and drive that foot traffic to create that retail market that is sustainable, even in the e-commerce world moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a huge push for the mixed use lifestyle experiential retail. I actually live here in Austin, and all of our new retail developments that are coming in Austin and really in a lot of the big cities that you'll see in Texas and other states it's all experiential. So places
Yeah, and I think a key point to point out is that all these new mixed use developments that are coming up, they're made to look like downtowns. They have the mixed use component. They have, the shops and the living, and, they emulate downtown, what we already have in most small downtown USA. So it's not like it's undesirable situation. Most communities have this already in place. It's just in terms of how do they capitalize on what's there, how do they draw people to their downtowns, be it festivals, communities, like Aaron mentioned a few minutes ago. Are you open late once or twice a week? Do you have a wind down Wednesday where people can walk down and they know that when they get off work and come back to downtown, there's a place for them to go shop or relax? And if millennials know that, the ones that are looking for that experience know that when they get off work, get back, to their community, there's something for them to do, they're likely going to go out and have fun and experience that dinner with their friends. Because with so much of the millennials being pushed online, they still crave that human interaction, and that's how we're seeing millennials kind of get that fix.
Yeah, and I think that plays into a question that one of our attendees has is, and Aaron, I'd love to hear you talk about this. What strategies are local retailers using to have a competitive online presence? So what are those local mom and pop shops and kind of smaller regional retailers doing to compete, and what are they doing from an online perspective?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing as far as local mom and pop stores go, number one is having a internet presence. I can't tell you how many communities we go to, and before we go there, we'll take a look, and a lot of the businesses downtown or local businesses don't have a website or don't have a web presence. So number one, make sure your local businesses have a web presence, because especially for the millennial crowd, if you don't have a website, you really don't exist. So that's one of the things we're seeing. We're also seeing a big focus on social media, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, other social media platforms. These local businesses, maybe posting new items on Facebook or doing something like that. You can also buy through Facebook now, so we're seeing that happen a lot. And then we're also seeing these businesses come together. So maybe one night a week they're open late, and maybe it's a Thursday night or something like that. The town I live in, we have what's called the First Thursday, and on First Thursday the stores are open later. But there's a lot of Facebook, there's a lot of internet marketing going on for that.
Yeah, and another example of that is our local coffee shop here in Tupelo, Mississippi. He'll randomly throw out, what he calls Stranger Appreciation Days, his customers, where they can do, 50% off of coffee if they come into the store that day, and it's only available to those who are online and follow him on a social media account. So that's an important piece moving forward for, small mom and pop type stores to be successful, to drive that foot traffic.
Great. Yeah, it's a great point. Local businesses too. I mean, they can set up online ordering. They can set up an online presence as well. So it's not it's not just for regional. It's not just for national retailers. These local businesses need to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, there's a craving for millennials to have that, the coffee shop that no one else can go to. That there's a certain amount of value for not being a national chain. So I think that's something that mom and pop type stores need to capitalize on.
Definitely.
Yep.
So moving from there into kind of the overall retail landscape, we talk a lot about the evolving face of retail and how you're seeing a lot of big box stores. Aaron, you mentioned Staples earlier and some office supplies places. You've got Macy's, Sears, Walmart, Nordstrom. A lot of these traditional big box retailers are starting to either close down or change business model and shift into kind of a new store format, a smaller store format, get more customized. What does that look like? What does the kind of evolving face of retail look like right now? Where's that going in 2018?
So, we're seeing a lot of these stores that we've kind of known they were going to be closing stores. We're starting to see that kind of really start happening now in 2017. Great example you just hit on the Sears and Kmart. They just came out this weekend with another 35 or so stores that are closing. So what you're seeing is these stores close that couldn't compete with other retailers. Maurice's is a smaller box retailer that you're starting to see close stores. Macy's has made some announcements, but what they're doing is they're not closing all of their stores. They're closing stores and really coming back with getting to maybe they had 500 stores. Now they're at 200 stores, and they're going to try to, really be good with those, be the best with those 200 stores and, really catering to the customers and those sort of things. So it's just stores are closing, coming back with smaller concepts for many of them. And then just trying to compete, whether it's, online, in person, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, to that point, Nordstrom's really trying to find their new footing. Their new stores, you can't even buy any merchandise in them. It's strictly a showroom where you go in, you have a designer come and basically outfit you and show you what some outfits would look like. They give you some coffee, you sit out and relax, and almost like a cafe type setting, and then you go in and purchase it online. So they're all trying to find their new footing and what the new market is going to look like moving forward in 2018 and beyond.
And Charles, talking about 2018, we just talked about a lot of stores that are either closing or changing business models. What about the retailers that are starting to really kind of take off and some concepts that are, starting to expand over the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, so the stores that are kind of been doing the best amidst all this big box closing down are, first of all, kind of the off-price retailer, TJ Maxx, Ross's of the world. And part of this is kind of ties back a little bit into the experience that, these stores don't really have a set merchandise. It's kind of, walk into 3 different Rosses and you're going to get, 3 different opportunities to find something new. There's kind of that treasure hunt mentality of, what can I go find in there today? Like, oh, I know that truck just came last Tuesday. They just got a new shipment, and let's go back and see if we can find something new. And I think that's a lot of the reason that's driving some of these off-price retailers, and they're successful, and they're capitalizing on the market like that. Similarly, the discount stores, as people become more price conscious, it's cool to be frugal. It's to go thrift shopping, to have an outfit under $5. That's a cool hit thing right now. Generally speaking, going to grocers, with the foot traffic that groceries maintain throughout the year, coming out of the recession, a lot of the new developments are grocery anchored, and that's kind of playing into a role of all the new developments still, even coming out 7, 8, 9 years later. And then lastly, the quick service restaurants.
Yeah, quick service restaurants is going to be something that we see really all restaurants. 40 to 45% of all retail growth in the next couple of years is going to be in that restaurant sector. So you're going to see that quick service restaurants. I think we're going to talk about it in a minute, but another one, and Charles hit on it earlier, was experiential retail. Yeah. And, people going and expecting an experience. So when they walk in the store, having a beer or a Dr. Pepper or something waiting for them when they walk in, experiential retail is something that we're, really seeing grow rapidly right now, probably faster than anything else. So remember that term, experiential retail, because that's something you're going to hear about a lot moving forward.
And I think that leads us to our next question. So typically people will say, okay, that's great. Brick and mortar's healthy. Where do we go from here, and how do we connect with retailers? So there's obviously retail segments where there's a lot of growth and expansion. How do we connect with those retailers?
Yeah, I think that the key part to building a sustainable retail market in your community is building relationships with those decision makers, with the brokers, the retail site selectors that are in charge of finding new sites. Their whole job is to drop new stores. So you need to somehow start fostering a relationship with those gatekeepers that are moving the stores. And a key piece that we at the Retail Coach use build these relationships are ICSC events. And Aaron, you're actually headed to one later this week. Is that right?
Yeah, it actually starts tomorrow through Friday in Dallas. It's the ICSC conference that's in Dallas. And I like what you said, Charles. I like what you said about relationships, because I learned a long time ago. I graduated from Texas A&M, and I had a professor that told me a long time ago. He said, if you remember anything about this class, he said, remember, it's not necessarily about what you know, but it's about who you know. And that's especially true in the retail industry. So, building relationships with these retailers and restaurants, you don't want to waste their time. You want to get them information. You want to provide them a service. You want to help them in making a decision on where they're going to locate a store. So as you get ready to go to ICSC conferences, maybe you're going to be going to this Dallas conference this week, or maybe it's the ICSC Recon conference in Las Vegas, which is next May. Go in there with a plan. Go in there not expecting to make a deal, but go in there with a plan, expecting to build relationships, expecting to make contacts with these industry leaders. You want to have a plan. You want to set up meetings ahead of time for these conferences. But at the end of the day, build relationships. You might first meet a retailer at ICSC, 5 years ago, and then you finally get a deal done this year. So it takes time. Retail is a process, but build those relationships with retailers, restaurants, and developers. That's key.
Awesome. And Aaron, this ties into a question we've got from an attendee. We spend a lot of time building relationships with site selectors, brokers from all across the country. And we recently had a client community get an Aldi. And someone asked about Aldi, saying, I've been reading a lot about Aldi, off-price German grocer with limited items. How do you see them fitting in the mix in small communities? Do they compete more with traditional grocers or with discount operations like Costco?
I think it's a mixture of both, to be honest with you. I've shopped at Aldi once in my life, but they are one of the fastest growing retailers in the country. And, what I would say about them is they've kind of found a niche where they've been successful markets throughout the year. So they're kind of a little bit of more focused on, hey, convenience and quick service. Hey, I can run in there, get a gallon of milk quickly. I can run in there, grab, some cheese or something else that I need for tonight's meal. So I see them not necessarily competing with the full service grocery stores, but more being a neighborhood type grocer, being more of a convenience type retailer.
Got it. And what kind of markets do you see them go into? What kind of retail trade areas do they look for?
They're a retailer. They have about 20 to 25,000 square feet stores. We're seeing them go into smaller markets. I think anywhere, probably a trade area of 30,000 people or more is what we're seeing them look at. They are expanding rapidly, just like that other grocer I mentioned Lidl. So they're able to go into a little bit smaller markets. They have less overhead as maybe your traditional grocery store. They don't have as large of a property they have to buy, large of a building to maintain. So they'll go into a little bit smaller communities than some of these other grocery stores will.
Gotcha. So back to relationships, all these great examples. That's someone that we've been, cultivating relationships with brokers and site selectors for a long time there. But anything else on relationships and how to connect with retailers before we move on?
No, again, you just want to build that relationship. Don't reach out to them 5 times in a week. Reach out to them. Every time you reach out to these retailers, provide them something new. Hey, site selector, I want to make sure you have the most up-to-date demographics on our community. I want to make sure you have this site that just came on the market. Don't just reach out to reach out. Have something to give them. They're looking for value add. They're looking for help in the process. So make sure you have something to provide them, and make sure you customize what you send to them. Many times I'll see communities make the mistake in that they'll just send out generic packets of information to Chili's, to Applebee's, to TGI Fridays. Well, if I'm Chili's, if I'm TGI Fridays, if I'm Applebee's, I want something customized for me. So make sure anything you send out from your economic development department, if you're a city or an EDC, make sure it's customized specific to that retailer. At the end of the day, it shows them that your community took the time to customize it for them, and you really want to see them in the community.
So Aaron, you beat us to the punch. Our fourth question is, what are retailers looking for in communities or looking for from communities? And you just touched on it, right? As much customized, personalized data that you can get for your community and stuff that's going to be valuable for retailers, right? So things like specific customer data, license plate analyses, retail trade area, a lot of the things that people may overlook. Charles, what are some of the things that you do with client communities that kind of help them connect with retailers and give them what retailers are looking for?
Yeah, I think a key piece of that is just understanding, what their corporate site criteria is. A Jimmy John's either needs an end cap or a freestanding space with a drive-through capability, and that they need, 20 feet of frontage, or that Wendy's needs a certain amount of people within a 5 mile radius. And kind of back to Aaron's point is you find out what their site criteria is, and you build these packages that highlight these points, and you really make it as easy as possible for that site selector to make a decision that, this meets all of our site criteria. This is a market we need to be in. And, someone just handed over on a silver platter a perfect site that fits everything. This is something we need to take a look at. And from there, we can try to work to get them in the market, drive around it, and see what a viable market it is. And we've seen that with a lot of our communities, that once we get a site selector in town, it's a whole different story. That communities are one thing on paper, but it's hard to really embrace and see what's all going on in the market until you get them to town. So I think the more you can do to make it easier on them to specialize these packages is the first key step.
Yeah, and I'll emphasize a little more what you just said, Charles, is if you can get a site selector to your community, deals are going to happen much quicker. So invite them to your community. Maybe invite them to lunch with you. Invite them to stay in a hotel in your community, something like that. Spend some time, do a tour with you, meet some of your council members, whoever that might be. End goal is to get them in the community. So just wanted to emphasize that a little bit more, Charles.
Great. Hey, Aaron, I want to get your perspective on a question we have from an attendee. How does the city get the attention of retailers at an ICSC type event? Aren't the site selectors really looking to talk to landlords and developers who actually have space to lease and make deals? Cities usually don't have property to offer for sale or lease.
I'll tell you, coming out of the downturn, 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of these retailers, a lot of these restaurants really cut down on their site selection staff. So maybe they had 15 people in a real estate department. Now they only have 5. And those 5 people are expected to really look at, the entire U.S. for this retailer. Because of that, they're looking for community's help more than ever, getting them more information, getting them whatever they might need. So, there's a couple things you can do at an ICSC event or something like that. We talked about setting up meetings ahead of time, but you can have a booth out there so that your presence is known, that they see you out there. But you can also work with your landlords. You can work with your real estate reps in town so that you have those sites available. So you've got that information so that you can almost work as kind of a go-between, if you will. And typically, not to step on anybody's toes, but brokers typically go where the deals are the quickest and the easiest. For you want to see that retailer, that developer in your community. So this gives you a chance to get them specific information on your community and maybe not a broker that's selling them on 5 different sites in the region.
Right. And Aaron, one of the things we do with communities we work with is instead of just doing general demographics and retail trade areas for a community as a whole, doing site profiles and having information on available sites in the community. Have you seen that be helpful, or have you, Charles, if somebody goes to an event and has site profiles ready, it seems like
Sure.
that helps. Have you seen that?
Sure. So the first question that, and Charles, you can talk about this too, but the first question that we always get from any retailer or developer is, okay, yeah, I like the community, but what sites are available? So that is the first question we get every time. So if you are a municipality, you're an economic development organization, you need to have a database of available sites so that you can follow up immediately with the retailer, with the restaurant developer. Site profiles, these are basically marketing pieces that our team put together on properties for our clients. Can't stress enough that you have those sites available. You have a database available so that if Chili's walks into your office and they're looking for 1.5 acres to 2 acres, immediately you can say, well, here are the 5 2-acre sites we have that fit what you're looking for. So absolutely, can't stress it enough. Sites are key in this process.
Right, and I think especially at these ICSC events where you get some face time, if you can drop an aerial in front of them, whether it be on a piece of paper or even an iPad, and point out that this is the site here, at this corner, and the traffic count on this road is X, and right down the road, there's a competitor of yours or a complementary retailer, and it makes the conversation go so much smoothly, and it gives you the power to show that why they need to be there, and it really helps the conversation.
Hey guys, great follow-up question on that is, aren't most retailers and their site selectors with aggressive expansion plans aware of the markets that meet their particular requirements?
Yeah, yeah. They know generally which areas they want to have their next expansion of growth, but there are also those pockets that they often overlook, or they were familiar with a certain market when they were a site selector for a different firm, and they kind of have a set pre-notion of what that market is. Marco's Pizzas is actually a great example of this, that we're working with one of our communities that the site selector kind of had his pre-notion of what our particular kind of community was until we got him to town and he realized how much it had changed since he had last been there. So I think it's important to stay in front of them to make sure that, these markets change so frequently, it's important to stay in front of them.
Right.
Yeah, a no today from a retailer, broker, developer could turn into a yes or a maybe in the next couple months, just depending on what happens in the market or maybe in the next year or two. So stay in front of them with fresh information. Especially as these retailers are evolving as far as the size of their store goes and what their processes are. They could be opening a smaller concept that fits your community that maybe didn't fit 2 years ago.
Right. And Aaron, I was thinking about a project we worked on in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area a couple of years ago where a retailer knew they wanted to be in the region, but they didn't necessarily know where in that region they wanted to be. And so they knew the markets, but there was still a lot of room and latitude to show them why one community would be better than another, or at least, have a seat at the table and be considered for that.
Yeah, a lot of times that's what you see is you'll see a retailer say, "Hey, we're going to open up 5 stores in this region." Well, you as a community, you as an economic development organization, it's up to you to get in front of these retailers to make sure you're one of the 5 stores they're going to open. They're going to open them in your community. So keep fresh information in front of them. Attend these ICSC events. Just make sure you're in front of them as much as possible. Again, with the overall goal, get them to the community.
Great. I'm going to move on to the fifth question, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So if you're following along with us, feel free to use that questions box in the bottom right-hand corner to type in some questions, and we'll get to those right after we talk about what's next. So Charles, Aaron, what's next for 2018? What kind of trends are we going to see? What do we need to be aware of as communities going into 2018 to help us get new developments, new retail? What's going to happen?
I think the first piece moving forward is everything's going to continue to be data driven. And the key piece that we use for all of our communities are cell phone analyses to point out where shoppers are coming from. We can go in and trace cell phones and therefore consumers and say that, your trade area is probably not what you initially think on paper. We can point out that maybe shoppers are coming as far as 15, 20 miles away. And for some of the smaller markets, this is a key piece of data that can paint that picture to prove to a retailer that needs to be there. So I think data is naturally going to be a large component moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You mentioned the cell phone analysis. That's factual data. It's scary to think about, but you're being tracked no matter whether you like it or not. But with that cell phone analysis, we're able to track where consumers are going, where they're coming from. So if you're still using a trade area that's a radial, a drive time, something like that, you need to upgrade that to cell phone data so you have factual data. A second trend I think will continue into 2018. We mentioned it already, but is restaurants kind of continuing to lead the pack. Restaurant growth, especially that quick service restaurant growth, is going to continue to lead the pack. As well as, I'm going to mention it again, experiential retail. Shopping in a store is becoming more of just shopping. There's things to do there. I was in Best Buy. I was able to try out virtual reality headsets. So it's becoming an experience and not just, again, shopping. A good example of that is Urban Outfitters. They've partnered up with a pizza restaurant to where when you walk in, you can grab a beer or a Coke or whatever you want, and then also have a piece of pizza while you're shopping. Now, Charles, I think, Charles, you were at Urban Outfitters buying skinny jeans last Saturday, and you did that, right?
Yeah, makes the pizza a little bit harder to eat when you're walking around shopping for skinny jeans.
So, but I think experiential retail. I think restaurants are going to lead the pack. Also those off-price retailers that Charles mentioned as well, whether that's a Nordstrom Rack or that's a TJ Maxx or Home Goods or something like that. We're going to continue to see those kind of lead the way into 2018.
I think that
that's a national perspective. I think for some of our smaller communities, of what they can do is kind of mimic that through kind of how we talked about earlier with festivals, events. Can you have a live music in your downtown? Maybe it's a food truck Tuesday that's drawing people to your downtown to capitalize on that experience movement that consumers are looking for right now. I think that's the next step that we're going to see continue on into 2018.
Yeah, and I think another main point that you touched on earlier on, Aaron and Charles, is that smaller format store. You're seeing a lot of these big box retailers come in with new, smaller format, localized stores. In a lot of cases, that may open some new markets that didn't exist before. Great example here in the Austin area is Whole Foods opening a smaller format store called Whole Foods 365, which is more of kind of neighborhood market type mentality. And so things like that, where there could be opportunity for communities where there wasn't before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's we've hit on it probably 10 times in this webinar, so I think that's going to continue to be something we see with the smaller concepts. So really pay attention to that as you work on your retail recruitment strategy going forward.
Great. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So for everyone following along with us, please, if you have questions, type them in that questions box in the bottom right. Couple of questions that have come in since we started. Is there a good way to find the proper contact at a retailer if we are targeting specific stores?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing you can do is you can look on LinkedIn. You can look at LinkedIn to find who the contact is. If you're not a member of the International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC, I'd really highly recommend you become a member of that, not just to attend the shows, but they also have a very good website where you can sometimes look up the contacts at some of these retailers and developers. And then if you need help going forward, you can reach out to us at the Retail Coach.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Will Klein. Sorry I'm late. I was tied up with an obligation earlier. But another thing you could do is take more of an old school approach, and that it's going online, finding a phone number for the real estate department for some of these retailers. Picking up the phone, calling them, and just asking, hey, who handles your real estate development or site selection in your state or maybe your county or your region.
Yeah, great point, Will. One mistake I see communities make is they'll go onto these contact forms on the websites and they'll type in all this information, and then I bet 99% of the time they don't hear back. But if you're able to call them, get a hold of the right person, that's key. So great point there, Will.
Hey guys, another question. We tend to get overwhelmed with all of the opportunities to invest in retail recruitment and development and just other types of economic development activities. Where should we start if we have a limited budget and resources and are overwhelmed? What would be the key place to start?
I think the first place to start for anybody starting at ground zero in terms of retail recruitment is understand your trade area. You have to be able to put your community in its best light to present to these retailers. You may not have a full team who can go out and call on 30 or 40 retailers, but you can make phone calls yourself to 5 or 10, a week, but you need to have the right data to put in front of them. And one of the things that we do at the Retail Coach is do some of the special packages for just a retail market analysis to kind of get your foot in the door for retail recruitment. And that's something that if someone's interested, they can certainly follow up with any of us here on the call afterwards.
Great. Aaron, you've been doing this for well over a decade now, and you've seen kind of the changes in retail recruitment and economic development. How would you tell somebody to practically get started if they haven't done much or they're looking to really jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I think Charles hit on it. I think you definitely need to know your trade area and know how large your trade area is. So I'd look at probably doing a cell phone analysis in the near term to really find out how large your trade area is, because that'll help you understand, what retailers are fits. That way you're not going after a retailer that's not looking for a community of your size. And then, I'd look at starting to attend some of these ICSC events. going to these events, whether it's the regional conferences or the national conferences, you can get in front of quite a few decision makers. So those would be a couple of recommendations I would make. I mean, I'd also look at if you're a staff of one, maybe reaching out to us or to see if we can help you come up with a strategy so that you can accomplish a lot with a little, if that makes sense. But I would start with the trade area. I'd look at ICSC events and really try to target and not necessarily take a shotgun approach, but really take a rifle or sniper approach that you're really targeting retailers and restaurants that you know are fits for your community.
Great. Another question from the audience is, if retailers have limited capital, why would they ever consider a rural market or areas with lower density populations?
Well, I mean, bottom line is whether you're a rural market or you're a market that's has higher density, it all depends on the trade area size. So you could be a town of 2,000, but your trade area might be 20,000. And if there's not much retail existing in your community, then a lot of times these retailers will look at that as potential. Nobody's there in the market, so a lot of times they want to be first in the market. The first in the market typically will own a market for a number of years. So whether you live in a rural community or you live in a more dense community, people still spend money on retail. So there is a chance there. But again, it's just targeting the right retailers that fit, whether you're a rural community versus dense community. It all comes down to how large is your retail trade area.
Yeah, I think a piece of that is Dollar General's, strategy over the last 3 or 4 years of going to those rural markets and basically cleaning up shop because there's no competition out there and they're convenience. And as the only option, they've been very successful with that strategy.
Yeah, and as a real example here, our the retail coach headquarters is out of Tupelo, Mississippi, and looking at a map of the United States, you might consider Tupelo being in the middle of Memphis and Birmingham as a rural area, but the mall here, the Barnes Crossing Mall here, reaches about 500,000 people. So Tupelo is much larger than just its city population. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And we said all the time, we worked recently in a community in California that their population was under 10,000 and their retail trade area was well over 60, 70,000 because of how their interstate was set up and how people just naturally flowed in and out of the community. So that would be where I would start with a rural community. Is a lot of times you can really sell yourself with that trade area instead of just your population and kind of your rural traffic. Awesome. Well, guys, I think we're going to cut it there. It's just past 10:45. Charles, Will, Aaron, anything you want to leave with the attendees before we go?
Yeah, I think we went through these questions pretty quick, but if you have any other questions moving forward, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to visit with you at some point. And, retail is not dead. Brick and mortar retail is not dead, just like we talked about, but it's up to you as communities to get out there in front of these retailers and restaurants, and we can help you with that as needed. So feel free to reach out to us. I know Austin, Will, Charles, and I were excited to have you all on here today, and we're going to make a copy of this recording available, and we'll email that to you as well as a copy of, some of the slides, and we'll send that over. So if you have any other questions going forward, just let us know.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. We work with clients across the country, and so a lot of these smaller communities face a lot of the problems that we see in other communities. So maybe there's something we can take from an existing client or someone we've worked in the past to help your community out. So please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about what's going on in your community.
Yeah, and sorry, you guys. This is Will. Sorry I was late to the call, but my email address and phone number there on the screen. And so give me a call. That's my cell. So I have it with me 24 hours a day. So just give me a shout if you have any other questions, and I'm available to help you figure out your retail environment and hopefully help form a partnership.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, thanks for your time, and thanks so much for everyone that joined us. If you're in the Dallas area, if you're going to be at the ICSC Dallas event, Aaron is going to be there starting, I believe, Thursday morning. So he'll be there Thursday and Friday. And we'll have another webinar in December where we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive on the 2018 retail trends and what communities can expect from retailers moving into 2018. So we'll send out an email about that, and we hope you join us.
Yeah, we'll have several of our team members in Dallas. So if you get a chance, come by our booth. We're at booth number 1433. That's 1433. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for everyone that attended.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.